A message to Paige from Curt Miller, an introduction to some extremely talented new players, a lot to talk about with the Dallas Wings. We talked to Curt Miller. We're going to share it with you, give you some context. Locked On Women's Basketball starts now.
You are Locked On Women's Basketball, your daily podcast on women's basketball. Part of the Locked On Podcast Network, your team every day.
Hi, everyone, and happy Wednesday to you. Welcome to Locked On Women's Basketball. I'm your host, Howard Megdal. I want to thank you for making us your first listen every day. Over 300,000 of you showed up in February alone. We are on track to smash our listenership here in March. Just an incredible time to be here with all of you. It is, of course, not just me. It is the incredible team across the board at the Next, where we have over 100 reported pieces, past, present, and future, all women's basketball. Go ahead and subscribe. TheNextHoops.com. You can go $9 a month, $72 a year. It all just comes into your inbox. It's just this steady stream of reporting, analytical goodness. TheNextHoops.com. Also, a huge thank you to all of you who have been watching us over at Bracket Breakdown on Amazon Fire TV. More than 1.3 million of you watching in week one alone. We are blown away. It's been an incredible experience. We'll be back with you again this weekend. Just ask Amazon to play Bracket Breakdown using an Alexa device. We're all there. Speaking of Dallas, where we record it, the Dallas Wings held a press conference today with General Manager Curt Miller and four players who, I believe all four have been guests on the show in the past, and certainly players I have spent a long time covering who are really going to make the Dallas Wings a compelling team to watch this year. Myisha Hines-Allen, DiJonai Carrington, NaLyssa Smith, and Ty Harris. We're going to get into a lot of that, but first, I'm going to let you hear what Curt Miller had to say specifically about Ty Harris in response to Jackie Powell's question, and then note the comment at the end about Dallas itself, directed toward people on Zoom. I happen to be on Zoom, and we're going to talk about that. I'm Howard Megdal. You're listening to Locked On Women's Basketball.
Hello, everyone. Congrats on just, being here and everything getting done. Just a couple for Curt, if I can. Going back to Ty, you noted that she was essentially a non-negotiable in trades. Why did you place so much value on her? And what is it about her skill set that, really stood out?
Yeah, I think it encompasses a lot, Jackie. I appreciate the question. First, that message was driven very loudly from our new head coach. I could get behind that because I have such a long-standing relationship with Ty through back in our Indiana days. And I just know the character of her and her family and what she stands for. And the never too high, never too low play on the court was something that resonated with us that you need. Her versatility to play on and off the ball, her size at her position, everything, that went into it. There was just so much that we needed. We needed to add some three-point shooting. We needed to add versatility to our lineup. So she became very much a non-negotiable as trades played out in the league and discussions continued, and I'm telling you, hundreds of discussions. She became absolutely a non-negotiable and had to be a part of the deal.
And to follow up, obviously we know that most of the league is on one-year deals due to a new CBA coming in 2026. So I'm just curious if you could explain a little bit what your strategy was in attacking free agency with knowing the fact that the league's going to become the wild, wild west in 2026.
Yeah, I think insight to what we were thinking is try to sign players that were hungry, were in the prime of their careers. If you look at our roster, we'll still have one of the youngest rosters in the league. We do not have a 30-year-old on our roster, but we have a lot of people in what we believe are the prime of their careers, that 26 to 30, that 27 to 30-year-olds. And it's up here on this table, multiple players coming off career years. So there was a mindset of trying to get players in the prime of their career, youthful, but resignable. Is there a connection here in Dallas? For some of them up here, absolutely. We're committed to creating a tremendous player environment. They're going to see a shovel in the ground in the season on our state-of-the-art practice facility with a renovated arena coming. So, all that momentum to have a great year and build the desire to want to be back here and do something in Dallas. And I'll remind you, the fourth largest media market in the United States. It's a great place, loud and clear for all the people on Zoom. It is a great place for all players to want to come to.
So clearly, Dallas is a great place to play, especially for the people on Zoom. As many of you know, I have been reporting the fact that nothing has been settled when it comes to where Paige Bueckers, the presumed best player in this draft, unless the earth crashes into the sun, is going to go. And as I have reported over the 9 newsletter, that decision has not been made. I just point out, sort of a few things, right? I am not the person who needs to be convinced one way or the other. I happen to think the world of Curt Miller, and there is nothing but respect there for what the Dallas Wings are looking to build. I'm going to talk about the players who are there today as well, because I think that's important that we focus on that as well. The people who need to be convinced are Paige Bueckers and the people around Paige Bueckers to help her make that decision. This is a Dallas Wings team, and let's just be real about it. If the Dallas Wings believe they were on the right track themselves, Curt Miller wouldn't be the GM. They would have the same coaching staff. They would have a status quo. They have made changes because they believed that changes needed to be made. We could have a whole other conversation about that. Letting Latricia Trammell go a year after she took them deep into the playoffs could be its own show, and how we feel about that. But the bottom line is changes need to be made. Those changes did not convince Satu Sabally to stay. Satu Sabally decided it was time to play somewhere else to continue her career. And that's what the task is, and I've written about this too. That's what makes the challenge so hard. Curt Miller turned the Connecticut Sun into perennial winners. Did an incredible job there. Was let go too soon, in my view, from Los Angeles. Curt Miller has earned the right of the benefit of the doubt in all of these different ways. In my view doesn't matter. What matters is that decision ultimately the one that Paige Bueckers, who by virtue of the current circumstances has so many other options, playing overseas, playing unrivaled, you name it, is she going to want to sign in Dallas, and specifically beyond even Dallas? This is a thing that has nothing to do with Curt Miller or the team put together there. I mean, Jasmine Thomas would be an incredible mentor for any young guard in this league, as we'll talk about in a few minutes, about those who are there. You sign an agreement this year for a rookie scale contract that's going to pay approximately $78,000 and tie you to the team for 4 years, or you wait for a new collective bargaining agreement, and as long as the PA does its job, that's going to be a lot more money and potentially more freedom that comes along with it as the two sides continue to negotiate what the new CBA is. It expires end of October 2025. As I would confirm that today. those are a lot of moving parts. Those are a lot of reasons why it makes sense that this would not be a cut and dry decision for anyone. This would not be a cut and dry decision, regardless of which team had the number one pick. So there's a lot for Paige and her people to figure out. And they haven't decided yet. And if they had decided and communicated that to Curt Miller would not be sending messages to Paige on introductory Zooms for 4 other players. So for those who say, oh, well, what are you stirring this up about? It's a whole lot of nothing. If there were nothing there, I wouldn't be writing about it, because I've spent a long time in this business. I don't write from nothing. People may not be rated on the record, but I don't write from nothing. And this would all be decided in ways that were obvious. When Caitlin Clark made this decision, there was no real mystery, even before she made the formal announcement. So pay attention. Listen with your mind, not just with your ears. Okay. All right. Back talking more. Segment 2, segment 3. I want to talk in segment 2 about how exciting it is that Myisha Hines-Allen and NaLyssa Smith are on the same team. 2 absolutely fascinating players. And DiJonai Carrington and Ty Harris together, combining. I'm going to talk about what that meant in Connecticut, what it specifically means in Dallas as well. I'm Howard Megdal, and you're listening to Locked On Women's Basketball. Back with a lot more. Locked On Women's Basketball is brought to you by GameTime. There is nothing like watching basketball live. The energy of the crowd, the sound of the sneakers on the hardwood, and maybe even in Philadelphia on the NBA side, a franchise player on the bench in street clothes. But enough about the 76ers. If you want to catch a game in person, GameTime makes getting tickets easier than ever. GameTime's new feature, GameTime Picks, filters out the fluff and shows you only the best deals on great seats, so you don't have to waste time scrolling through thousands of tickets. My wife, against all odds, still is trying to take up watching the 76ers. There are plenty of tickets available. The very best options and getting to see it up close. That's right. GameTime Picks helps us do it, turns date night into watching Tyrese Maxey lead the Sixers to a 20-point loss. And people say romance is dead. Take the guesswork out of buying tickets with GameTime Picks. Download the GameTime app, create an account, and use code LOCKEDONNHL for $20. Locked On NBA for $20 off your first purchase. Terms apply. Again, create an account and redeem code LOCKEDONNBA for $20 off. Download GameTime today. What time is it? Why, it's game time. Back here in segment 2, Howard Megdal, Locked On Women's Basketball. I want to take you back, if I can. Maisha Hines-Allen, a young player in this league, a big, capable of stretching it out beyond the arc, somebody with incredible motor. In year two, coming off the bench for Washington, helped the Mystics win a championship. In year 3, playing in the Wubble, made WNBA All-Second Team. There's sort of the moment she made the leap. So now she's in Dallas, made the decision to come in and occupy the space that allows her to play off of a talented cadre of guards, and also, due to other moves here, allows her to work with NaLyssa Smith. And NaLyssa's been on this show. We've talked about her dating back to her collegiate days. An incredible talent, a true lottery pick, and that level of ability. I'm excited to see what the change of pace does for her. I'm excited to see what the change of scenery does for her, is more to the point. I really want to see what NaLyssa Smith looks like with the Myisha Hines-Allen influence. So I asked Maisha Hines-Allen about this. Let's hear what she has to say. Back here after this. I'm Howard Megdal, and you're listening to Locked On Women's Basketball. Congratulations and welcome to all of you. I've got one for Myisha and Curt, one for you, if I could. Myisha, to start with you, welcome to Dallas. You obviously have established yourself in the league in a way, and in terms of years, where NaLyssa is still doing that, only a few years into her career. And I'm wondering, what have you seen of NaLyssa's game, and where do you think she can get to with her game?
I mean, I feel like there's always room to improve. It doesn't matter how long you've been in the league for, there's always room to improve. And I mean, we played together, 2 years ago in Turkey. Just to see her growth every year so far, even like in college. I remember the first time we were teammates in Turkey. She was like, I don't know how, like she still had my number, but it was from like a Louisville trip, or what was it? She came for a visit to Louisville or something like that. So she had my number through that. But just to see her growth from college to now the pros, now I'm super excited to just be teamed up with her again. Like Curt mentioned, her rebounding is phenomenal, but I think one-on-one basketball with her is like another player. You just roll out the ball and she can go get a bucket too. So super excited to be teamed up with her again.
I appreciate it. And Curt, for you, DiJonai and Ty obviously seem to offer complementary skills. And we saw last year in lineups with the two of them, they were a +4 in net rating. I'm wondering, when you see the two of them, do you see an opportunity? Obviously, these are not your calls as the GM rather than the head coach, so a different seat for you. But to play with Arike, do you see that sort of a 3-guard lineup? I know, which is something you've used to a lot of success in both Connecticut and LA. Or do you see them as operating as changes of pace with Arike?
Yeah, Howard, I'll defer to Chris now on the X's and O's. But as we talked about roster construction, thinking about those three, playing with Arike, and knowing that, both Ty and DiJonai are coming off career years, and the momentum that they have going, and hearing through the process of free agency, the desire for Nay to be considered more than just a defender and a great transition offensive player, but the growth in the half court when it slows down in huge games in the semifinals and finals. She just has the ability to become one of the great two-ways. And then Ty's ability to play on or off the ball. So you saw that in Connecticut with her shooting ability, in a team that could put the ball in AT's hands, and she could play off the ball, but she's still a really good pick and roll point guard. Dawn Staley puts people in the pros, period, from South Carolina. I'm not sure that she glowed more about a player in all my years of calling her and asking about her prospects going into the draft than Ty.
Appreciate you all. Thank you. So it's interesting what she has to say. I think that partnership should be something I'm keeping a close eye on when we think about Dallas. But let's talk about what Curt said as it relates to DiJonai Carrington and Ty Harris. And I've said this on the show numerous times. I think Ty Harris has the chance to be a top 5 point guard in this league. I think that's what her ceiling is. We finally saw her starting last year. She excelled. On that Connecticut team, putting her and DiJonai in the same lineup was really interesting. But I'm going back, I'm thinking about things like, what if you have DiJonai guarding threes? What if you have a lineup that involves Ty Harris and Arike and DiJonai all playing together? Lineups like when Curt Miller would use Natisha Hiedeman in conjunction with his other 2 guards, right? Courtney Williams at times playing, effectively a 3, even though she's 5'8", although she can jump through the ceiling. So the height doesn't really apply because She can basically fly, which is so much fun to watch. I think it'd be really interesting. There are a lot of opportunities to do things differently. And Curt's right. This is Chris's show now to figure that stuff out. Curt is the GM. He's not the head coach there. But he'll have his say and should. He's Curt Miller. He has earned that right. It's fascinating, right? Are there going to be lineups where you run Maddie Siegrist out there as a 5 and a small ball 5, right? Are there ways in which you go 4 out and Tierra McCowan has the run of the paint? And there are ways in which you can operate that way. You can do this. Look, NaLyssa Smith could be a small ball 5 next to Maddie and Myisha Hines-Allen and 2 guards. I mean, there's a lot of different interesting talents, ways in which the Dallas Wings and their talent level is synonymous with the modern WNBA game. I mean, something that, again, Curt Miller has always understood. Yes, all of this means the Dallas Wings are going to be a really interesting team this year, no matter who the number 1 pick is, whether they pick it, whether there's a deal to be made. Doesn't matter. This is not all or nothing for the Wings. And I think that's important to note. But yeah, having that prospect who just went 50, 40, 90 as a guard. Oh my God. Paige Bueckers is something else too. And that sending messages and trying to get that done, you can understand why Dallas wants to do that too. So a lot more. We'll keep coming back to these stories in the weeks ahead. It is going to be fascinating. There are no villains here. I think that's really important to keep in mind too. Everyone's trying to make the best decision for their own careers. I really hope there's no blowback, whatever Paige decides. I really hope that, because for a young woman who has overcome a lot and is trying to do right by the game, anyone who tries to tell her, hey, you should do what you're told and not what's best for your career here in 2025, that's bad luck. So we'll talk about it. Much more to come tomorrow. You will get an upgrade in the host chair. Chelsea will be joining you talking about the Spokane region. Jackie Powell will be here with you Friday talking about the Birmingham region. So much to get to in March Madness. And one more thing, I've said it on the air, bracket breakdown, I'm going to say it here. My heart goes out to you, Juju Watkins, and I wish you a speedy recovery. It's been absolute pleasure to cover you and your rise in this sport. And we look forward, all of us, to covering your comeback when you return, as I know you will. That's it for today. I am Howard Megdal, Locked On Women's Basketball. Thank you for making us your first listen every day. Be back with you very soon. Until then, you all have a wonderful Wednesday.
You are Locked On Women's Basketball, your daily podcast on women's basketball. Part of the Locked On Podcast Network, your team every day.